Now, convicted rapists and burglars could be spared jail from next week after judges were told that the country's prisons are full. The Times today is reporting Crown Court judges have been ordered to delay sentencing hearings as prisons are bursting, literally bursting at the seams.
Well, joining us now is KC and former Old Bailey judge Wendy Joseph. Wendy, this story is so shocking on the surface, but actually it doesn't really come as a surprise, does it, with the state of the prisons that we have in this country?
It is shocking. Yeah. It doesn't come as a surprise. But it's not quite as bad as some of the headlines make it sound.
Really?
So it is not that rapists are not going to be sent to jail. It's that the sentencing process may be delayed. So they're not going to be told you can have probation instead of 8 years in prison, but they're going to be sent away to be brought back at a later stage.
Sent away to where, Wendy?
Well, that's the question. If the problem is because of lack of space in cells, and that seems to be the problem, it's not going to relate to those who are already in custody on remand. They're already occupying a cell. That's not going to help at all. So it would only affect, as I understand it, and of course I haven't been involved in this directive at all, but as I understand it, it would involve those who are already on bail. So we are looking at people who have been bailed, waiting for their trial, have now had their trial. You'd expect them to be sentenced at this stage, and the idea seems to be that you send them off again to come back at a later date.
Am I right in saying that some people who've been convicted will have been given bail and allowed to all intents and purposes?
What, a rapist would?
Yes.
Is that right,
roam
Wendy?
freely.
People who are accused of rape are not deemed to be rapists until they've been convicted. There are many people who are accused of rape who get bail. So the test for getting bail is really a general test for most crimes. And what the judge will be looking for at a very early stage in the proceedings, long before you get anywhere near the trial, is this someone who, if I release him back into the community, will commit further offences? If so, no bail. Is it someone who is going to run away if I let him back into the community? If so, no bail. And is it someone who will interfere with witnesses?
Can I ask you a question as a former judge? This is fascinating. Now, KC, there's lots of rhetoric around prisons. There's no doubt prisons, there isn't enough space. There's many people saying nowadays we live in a world where you don't even get prosecuted for shoplifting. There's not enough police on the streets. I don't think we're hard enough. I think our criminal justice system is on its backside. Sitting there as a judge in the past, that's some responsibility. Explain this to me. You've got a man in front of you that's accused of raping a woman. You've got to make a decision whether that man is really, if you like, a danger to society. That's a huge responsibility. Do you get support in making that decision, or is it on you, 100%?
Judges get support from colleagues, but that is only, as it were, pastoral and unofficial support. If you're a judge, you're captain of the ship, you take the responsibility.
What do you think of the criminal justice system in this country?
Jeremy, you can easily knock it. There are an awful lot of things wrong with it. But if you look across the world at other justice systems, there are an awful lot of things right
How do we improve it, Wendy?
Well, the answer to that's very simple and unachievable. Money. It's all Treasury driven. All the things that are going wrong at the moment, most of the things that are going wrong at the moment are because we don't have the funds, the government doesn't have the funds to make things work. The problem at the moment with the lack of prison cells is largely...
But they don't want to prioritise the funds, is an issue as well.
That's interesting, but I'm just trying to get to this thing about the prisons. I mean, patently we need to build more prisons, but is there something to be said for the rules? Are we incarcerating the wrong people, allowing more dangerous people? But I'm sorry, if you break the law in this country, there should be a punishment. Is the punishment needed to be changed in terms of the severity of the crime?
It has been, over the last 2 decades, over the last 20-odd years, we are sending more and more people to prison for longer and longer. The inevitable consequence of that is they're filling up prison cells. If you're going to, I'm not saying the policy is right or wrong, it's not for me to say it, but if that's the policy that's adopted, you have got to build the cells to accommodate what you are achieving.
And what kind of confidence can women and men who are victims of rape have in a justice system that has a rape conviction rate of less than 2%? And then even the chances are so small of an attacker getting convicted, but then even smaller still that they will end up in prison. What confidence can victims have in the justice system in the UK?
The question of sexual assaults on men and women is a very difficult argument. Of all the crimes that we deal with, that is the one that has the lowest, what do you call it, satisfaction rate in terms of achieving justice at the end of the day. We know that, we've known it for so long, and we've not found ways of putting it right. The conversation that we're having now about the absence of prison cells, the delay in sentencing people convicted of rape, that is the damage. The fact that we are talking about it now, the fact that there is a deeper undermining of confidence.
I'm never going to get another chance to ask you this, Wendy, so forgive me. As a retired judge, we've seen Lucy Letby, we've seen some horrific, horrific things. Life for life, because I tell you, if you did a poll, do you know what the situation out there is? People cannot believe that people can commit horrendous crimes in this country, 28, 30 years, and they're out in 12. We need to be stronger, don't we, against the worst criminals?
If you get 28 or 30 years, you're not going to be out in 12. Murder is a different thing. Murder is a horse of a different colour. If you are convicted for murder, there's only one sentence. It's life imprisonment. That means you go to prison and there is no date for your release, and you won't be released unless and until the parole board says you can. The judge at the same time will impose a minimum tariff to be served before that prisoner can apply for parole.
Are you going to answer the question, though? Do you think that certain criminals, with respect, do not ever deserve to come out?
That clearly is the case, because there are whole life sentences, and Lucy Letby is a classic example of that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wendy.
Fascinating, Wendy. Thank you so much for coming in.